The mirror never lied to me. Even when I was 12 and my doctor wanted to fix what he called my hormone problem with weekly injections. Even when kids at school whispered behind my back about my soft voice and gentle hands. The mirror showed me exactly who I was, and for the longest time, I hated what I saw. My name is Zack Miller, and this is how I learned to love the person looking back at me. Growing up in small-town Georgia felt like wearing clothes that never quite fit. My body stayed small and lean no matter what I ate. My voice cracked late and settled into something softer than the other boys. While they grew broad shoulders and thick necks, I remained delicate, almost fragile-looking. The bullying started early and never really stopped. "Hey, pretty boy," they would call out in the hallways. Sometimes they would push me into lockers or knock my books down. I learned to walk quickly between classes and eat lunch alone in the library. Fighting back never crossed my mind. Violence felt foreign to everything I was. My parents meant well, but they worried constantly. Dad would take me fishing, hoping outdoor activities might toughen me up somehow. Mom bought me sports equipment I never used. The testosterone injections sat on our kitchen counter for weeks before they finally accepted I would not take them. High school brought new challenges. While other guys talked about girls and cars, I found myself stealing glances at the quarterback during lunch. Jordan Matthews had everything I admired. Confidence that filled entire rooms. Strong arms that could throw a football 60 yards. A laugh that made my stomach flutter in ways I could not understand yet. The realization crept up slowly like dawn breaking. I was gay. The weight of that knowledge pressed down on my chest for months. I would lie awake at night wondering if something was wrong with me. If I could change. If I wanted to change. Everything shifted during my junior year. Emily, a girl from my English class, became my unlikely friend. She saw through my quiet exterior and refused to let me disappear completely. "You know what your problem is?" she said one afternoon while we studied together. "You hate yourself for being different instead of celebrating it." Her words stuck with me for weeks. Slowly and carefully, I began experimenting with who I might be. I started with small things. Skincare routines that made my face glow. Clothes that fit my slim frame instead of hiding it. I discovered that tight jeans and fitted shirts made me feel confident instead of ashamed. The real breakthrough came late one night browsing online. I stumbled across something called the Prism Stories website during one of my restless midnight scrolling sessions. They had this feminine size calculator that caught my attention. Almost without thinking, I measured myself and entered the numbers. The results surprised me with how feminine my proportions actually were. On impulse, I bought a book called My Closet Has Secrets. Reading it felt like finding a map to myself. Senior year transformed everything. I started taking better care of my body, not to become more masculine, but to become more myself. Weight training helped me develop curves in places that felt right. My legs grew stronger and more shapely. My small waist became something I was proud of instead of embarrassed about. The first time I tried on a dress was in my bedroom on a Thursday afternoon when my parents were at work. I had ordered it online, a simple green sundress that seemed safe somehow. Slipping it over my head felt like coming home. The fabric flowed around my legs in ways that made me understand something fundamental about who I was meant to be. Standing in front of my mirror that day, I saw someone beautiful looking back. Not masculine. Not traditionally feminine either. Something uniquely me. Something worth loving. College brought freedom I had never imagined. Moving to Atlanta meant I could explore parts of myself that small-town life had kept locked away. I found communities of people like me. Guys who wore makeup without apology. Men who loved other men openly. People who understood that gender could be fluid and beautiful and complicated all at once. That was where I met Jamie Carter. He was everything I thought I wanted. 6 feet tall with broad shoulders and hands that could completely cover mine. Dark hair that fell across his forehead in perfect waves. A smile that made me forget my own name. He was studying business while I worked on my art degree, and somehow our paths kept crossing. The first time he asked me out, I nearly fainted. Literally. My vision went spotty and I had to grab onto a nearby wall for support. He found this endearing rather than embarrassing, which should have been my first clue about the kind of person he was. Our first date lasted until sunrise. He told me about growing up in North Carolina with parents who never understood his artistic side. I shared stories about feeling different my whole life. When he reached across the table to hold my hand, electricity shot up my arm. "I love how delicate you are," he whispered later that night as we walked through downtown. "You are like a piece of art that I want to protect." Those words should have been romantic. Instead, something cold settled in my stomach. But I was so desperate to be loved that I ignored the warning signs. Jamie was possessive in ways that felt exciting at first. He would text me constantly throughout the day, wanting to know where I was and who I was with. He bought me clothes that he wanted to see me wear. Dresses that showed more skin than I was comfortable with. Lingerie that made me feel exposed rather than beautiful. "You look perfect," he would say, and I would feel beautiful and objectified at the same time. The relationship became a cage decorated with rose petals. He loved the idea of me, the fantasy of having a feminine boyfriend who would be whatever he wanted. But he never seemed interested in who I actually was underneath all his projections. 6 months in, things came to a head during what should have been a romantic evening. We were in his apartment and he had cooked dinner and lit candles. Everything seemed perfect until he started talking about our future together. "I want to take care of you," he said, running his fingers through my hair. "You would not have to work or worry about anything. Just be beautiful for me." The words landed like stones in my chest. What if I want to work? What if I have dreams that do not include being your decoration? His face changed. The gentle mask slipped away and I saw something harder underneath. "Why would you want to complicate things? This is perfect. You are perfect just like this." That night I understood the difference between being loved for who you are and being loved for what you represent to someone else. Jamie loved having a pretty boyfriend. He loved the way other people looked at us together. He loved feeling like he owned something beautiful and rare. But he did not love me. Not really. Leaving him was the hardest thing I had ever done. Not because I would miss him, but because it meant facing the world alone again. It meant giving up the safety of being someone's cherished object and learning to be my own whole person. The months that followed were lonely but necessary. I learned to dress for myself instead of for someone else's approval. I made friends who saw me as complex and interesting rather than just pretty. I started creating art again, paintings that explored identity and belonging and the space between masculine and feminine. Sometimes I still catch myself in the mirror and remember that 12-year-old boy who hated what he saw. Now I see someone who has fought for the right to exist authentically. Someone who learned that being different is not something to fix or hide or apologize for. I am still looking for love, but now I know the difference between love and possession. Between acceptance and fetishization. Between someone who wants to protect you and someone who wants to control you. My reflection shows me someone who is still learning, still growing, still becoming. And for the first time in my life, that feels like enough.